Welcome, everyone, today to the Third Coast Podcast, as Rika Wildlee, the barker of the bazaar, gets to sit down and have a one-on-one chat for episode 257. The Third Coast Podcast is about to get a little bizarre.
And you're listening to Third Coast Podcast. We are back with episode 257, and I am joined with the one, the only, Rika Wildlee. Did I say it right?
You did.
I'm very, very shocked.
Hey, you're not the first person who's had a struggle with the name, so I'm impressed already. So there you go.
How you doing this afternoon?
Man, I'm doing good. I had a great match yesterday night at the Great Raft Brewery in Shreveport, Louisiana. Amber Waves of Pain. They've done that show multiple years, and the last 4 years I was on the show and wrestled actually my original opponent from the first time I was there, the Gatekeeper, and match went over great. Got a little roughed up, but hey, that's wrestling.
All right. You were telling me earlier you were in a little bit of pain after your recent match.
Yeah, I spent last night not in a way that I wanted to spend it in the ER, but I was getting my shoulder checked out. Took a little spill yesterday, took a little bad bump, but hey, like I said, that's wrestling. You're not going to come out unscathed out of every single match. You just got to kind of roll with the punches and hopefully not break anything long term or hurt anything long term.
And what you had told me earlier that this was the real first injury that you had come across. And after all of these years, what you've been wrestling for?
Right at 5 years. And it's the first time I've had to go to the ER over a wrestling injury. I mean, I spent majority of my childhood in and out of the ER just being dumb. But yeah, as far as wrestling goes, this is my first actual ER trip to go get checked out, make sure everything's okay. Being in enough pain to where I felt it necessary to go ahead and get checked out to make sure, because I've got other matches coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have to make some calls. You know what I'm saying? But overall, it'll be all right.
So you're traveling through 9 different states for when I looked at your link tree, and you said you have something coming up again next in a couple of weeks? Or
yes, actually I took next weekend off because Friday night, so I have a faction called the Family Affiliated. It's me, my tag team partner Ethan Sorrow, Gluttony the Big Top Butcher, Raina Rose, and Smoke the Reaper. And majority of us are from around this area, but Smoke the Reaper, he's from Texas, and he is going to be coming to Gena, Louisiana at Gamers Paradise, and we're going to have a meet and greet Friday night with the entire family. Gonna sell some t-shirts, do some autograph signings, take some pictures, all that good stuff. So I just went ahead and took that weekend. I usually wrestle on Saturdays, but I went ahead and took that weekend off from wrestling so I could focus on doing the meet and greet and getting all it out of the way and all that.
what's your group? From the outside in, I kind of pictured y'all to be the bad guys in the rest of the world, but you informed me that y'all are the good guys.
Well, and that's the thing, man. We paint a very odd looking picture, but just like the world as a whole, we all paint an odd looking picture. You just got to explain to the fans or the promoters that book you places that we're not a bad team. We're not a heel team. Just because we look scary does not mean we are scary. We're not going out there trying to scare the fans and all that good stuff. Our whole shtick, our whole thing on the gimmick is taking everything that you know about don't judge a book by its cover. So we go out there, we may look scary, but we turn it on its head and explain to the fans, everybody has a persona that they put on and give to the world. Whether it's good, bad, whatever. But just because we look bad does not mean we are bad. There are bad people in the world that portray themselves as genuine, upstanding citizens, this, that, and the other, but behind closed doors, they're real monsters, you know? So when we go out there and they see us, initially they're kind of taken off guard, but once they understand that we're just portraying what everybody else tries to hide. We've got the mask and the gimmicks and the scariness going on, but if you just get to know us, we're actually really upstanding people. We do the autograph signings and the handshaking and, you know, take pictures of the fans and all that good stuff, but don't judge a book by its cover. And that's the message to the world, you know?
Yeah. So when it you were like deciding on your wrestling like identity, how did you stumble upon what you're working with now?
Well, before the wrestling took place, I joined the wrestling school, the UWE, United Wrestling Entertainment Academy out of Alexandria. I joined them in 2021, but 2019, there's this stuff on Facebook, and I know a lot of people know about it, but a lot of people don't. They're called E-Feds. They're promo groups. So it's basically wrestling without the wrestling. You just get on there and talk trash to each other in character. You come up with a character, and the other guy will come up with a character, and I'll talk trash about him, he'll talk trash about me, and then they have judges that judge these matches, right?
Yeah.
And whoever wins those matches, they can go and they have title belts and all that kind of stuff, but there's no real physical wrestling, because some of these people, like I've promoted against guys in Germany and all over the world, because it's all through Facebook or social media in general. But while I was doing that, I came up with the Rika Wildlee character. And it was one of those things, I was like, I'm a huge D&D fan. Always have been.
All right.
And my character in D&D was Ricochet. And my actual middle name is Lee. And I was originally going to be Rika, the Wild Card Lee. But as I was getting into the wrestling stuff and building this gimmick and all of that, I went and I put this out to every wrestler that is coming up on the indies or really anything. Do your research, because once I started looking up all the different people out there with similar names to that, because I wanted to try to be original as possible. In wrestling, everything's been done, but there's a million different wild cards out there. Every other person is a wild card something. You know, so I was like, well, I'm going to scrap that idea. And that's why it ended up just becoming Rika Wildlee. And that's how that was born.
Well, that's interesting. I like that. It's nice and detailed. I didn't know that there was wrestling without wrestling in it.
Well, there's so many different aspects to pro wrestling as a whole. If there's people that come up that can wrestle really good, but can't talk on a mic to save their life. And then there's people who have the verbal skill out this world, but can't wrestle at all. You know, barely can get by in a match. But it's very few that can kind of do both good, you know, or decent. And luckily, I learned how to promo and learned how to talk without stumbling over my words, you know, being able to just fluently talk without, kind of like in a match, having to think about the next thing I'm going to say. And as I got into the actual wrestling stuff and started training to get in the ring and work on my in-ring stuff, I could already talk, which for most people, talking's half the battle. Because you can be a great wrestler, but if you can't explain to the people, you know, what you're trying to get over as far as your gimmick, then you're kind of fighting a losing battle. Because post-match interviews, you know, after-match interview, all that kind of stuff, before match, after match, whatever, when you get interviewed, you want to be able to help the fans who either couldn't make it to that show and are catching it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. You want to help those fans understand why you're doing the things you're doing in the ring. So if you can go out there and cut a promo in front of a crowd or cut a promo in the back with the interview man or interview woman, if you can do that and portray your gimmick and your entire little thing you got going to the fans. By the time they actually make it to a show, they already know what they're in store for, you know, because they get it. But if you can't, then that's a problem. It's kind of working on one side of the coin. But there's a lot of different aspects in wrestling, man, and that's what makes it beautiful. It's just there's so much able to be creative on.
It's a wonderful art form in which I see that you have expanded nicely on with all that gold sitting right next to you.
Yeah, man.
How does be a title holder? You know, I know you have a tag team championship. You have two tag team championships, a couple of, you know, titles in different fighting organizations.
3 different states right now. I'm the current CCW tag team champion with my brother Ethan Sorrow. This is Classic Championship Wrestling out of Fort Smith in Alma, Arkansas. That was the first tag team championship we won. And then most recently, we've got the tag team championship from Oklahoma City for Renegade Wrestling Entertainment. Very beautiful, beautiful title. And one that I am definitely happy to be able to hold because there's not many titles out there that are just super unique. Yeah. And this is definitely one of them. Most of them are based off of something else, another title that has been around before. Then you've got the SWF Sadistic Wrestling Federation out of Silsbee, Texas Heavyweight Championship. And I won it last month. And this is my first heavyweight title.
You won the heavyweight title?
Yep. And I mean, the thing is in wrestling, man, it's called heavyweight, but look at me. There ain't nothing heavyweight about me.
What you want? 180, 185, if that?
If that, soaking wet. But the thing is, man, is you can't call it world. Yeah. Because it's in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, you can call it a heavyweight or you can call it their organization championship. But in wrestling, look at it this way. Rey Mysterio won the heavyweight title. I mean, it's all about skill more than anything. If you're the draw, if you're helping the company and you're that guy that they're putting their faith in, you could be $110, you could be 500 pounds. It doesn't matter. But I will always say this as a basis of everything in pro wrestling, that charisma will carry you farther than any kind of in-ring skill, period. Hands down. You could wrestle all day, every day, be the best wrestler in the world, but if you've got no pizzazz about you, if you've got no charisma to really draw the people in, then you're just another wrestler. There's a million of you. You know what I'm saying? There's a million wrestlers out there that can wrestle really good. But if there's not something that is extra about you, then you're fighting a losing battle. But that goes into understanding the psychology of not only the in-ring stuff, but the whole pro wrestling circle, I would say. But like Rika, okay, I am billed, which for people that don't know wrestling, where you're billed from is where they say you're from when you walk out, from Texas or whatever city, Texas or Louisiana, whatever. But as the carnival barker, I'm billed from your town. Every place I go, I'm billed from your town. Why? Because that's what a carnival does. It goes from town to town to town. So I'm never from the same place twice. I'm always from your town. Not your town, USA, just from your town. And even if these fans have never seen me or my gimmick or my faction or anything like that before, they're already invested. Because before I even walk through the curtain, they're going, wait a minute, this guy's from my town. Do I know him? And now they're going to be paying more attention because they're trying to place you in their life. You know?
That's smart.
Yeah. They're trying to place you in their normal life. Even though I got the mask on, now they're going, did I see this guy in Walmart? Did I see this guy working down the street at the Shell station? You know, they're trying to place you in their life, so they're already invested. They're on the hook already. Then you come out and I've got the lights and the mask and the whole thing, so that draws them more in. So by the time I get to the ring, they're already invested in the gimmick and I haven't even wrestled yet. It's all psychology.
Never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And then for the promoters too, if you're making money too,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're selling seats and tickets and merch, and
Definitely.
and then that's something I want to congratulate you on too. Your t-shirts look awesome.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. I make all my own designs, all my own logos, everything. I make everything myself. Other than my boots and my mask, and I'll tell anybody, I had a guy from Hollywood make this mask for me. I had a guy from Australia make my boots for me. And everything else I've done myself. And I can't work with leather. I can't work with latex. That's the only reason I haven't made my mask or boots. But my gear, my tights, my jackets, my lights, my top hat, all of it is all made in-house. Because on the indies, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to cut corners and save some money. If you're always reaching out and trying to get other people to make your gear for you, you're losing money. I taught myself how to sew, which I do before the wrestling, I was doing the cosplay stuff and going to the Renaissance Fair and all that kind of stuff. So
That's really cool.
dude, I mean, I was making costumes before the gimmick. So teaching myself how to sew was a necessity anyway. Teaching myself how to take something and turn it into something else has always been a thing I've been into. So as I started making my own wrestling gear, it just kind of played into it that much more. It made it easy for me. And plus, I can go into any locker room in the country and guarantee that ain't nobody gonna have nothing like mine. Cause it's unique. Cause I made it.
So when it comes to like you're wearing essentially the same mask and the same boots most fights, but do you change the different tights?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I probably got 7 or 8 pair in my bag right now. I've got a black and white pair that I strictly use for tag team matches. Cause me and my partner have some that are black and white. When I'm by myself, when I'm doing solo matches, I'm very bright, very colorful. I wear the bright blue jacket and all of that. The brighter the better, as far as my tights go and my jacket goes and all of that. But when I'm doing tag team stuff with my partner and we're going tag team matches, he's got a pair of black and white tights that I made him that's got certain designs on it. And I've got a pair of black and white tights that I made me and it's got certain designs on it and they match. Not the same, but they match. And then I've got a black, long tailcoat that I made that fits that style with the lights on it and all that, but it's just black. It's got the green and purple Rika Wildlee on the back, but it fits the darker tag team ambiance that we've got going, But when I'm by myself, I go full bright as I can get, but it just kind of separates the two from being solo on to being a tag team.
So when you're wrestling tag team versus wrestling solo, how is your approach? Are you more aggressive, or is it like, do y'all have to work with each other to get the timing down? Do y'all have like special moves y'all do together?
Oh yes. Well, wrestling solo, it's more strategy, because no matter who you're going against, you've got to play against your size opponent. So, I mean, like I said before, I'm not a big guy, so I've got to go in there kind of understanding what strategy I need to use to take on this opponent. I've wrestled dudes who are 6'5", 380. I mean, gigantic men compared to me, and there's no way I'm going to try to straight muscle you. Look at me. But I've got to figure out a way to not only work you down to where I can actually get something over on you and you're not just handling me up the whole match, but I've also got to find a way to storytell and explain it to the fans, so by the time they see the match end, however it may, they get what I had to do to work him down. Kind of a David and Goliath story. Obviously I'm not going to go in there and lock up with a guy who's that big and expect them to believe that we're just locking up, But if I go in and I immediately drop kick him in the kneecap and slowly work his legs down, I just don't let him grab me. If I can just stay within arm's reach of him, or stay out of arm's reach of him, and just work his legs down the entire match, eventually he'll be almost down to his knees, and now you're my size. And it's all about working that story. We can't go out there and read them what's going on word for word, but we can explain to them by movements. We can explain to the fans by movements. So by the time the ending of the match happens, they go, okay, the reason he won is because at the very first of this match, he started taking out his legs. He started working on them legs. You know, throughout the match, he may grab me and slam me and all this kind of stuff, but I was targeting his legs because he's way bigger than me. If your move is a choke slam, I'm going to try to break your hand. I'm going to try to work your arm, because if you can't pick me up, you can't do your finishing move, you know, or whatever the case may be. But it's all about explaining to them, the fans, what's going on and what's happening without actually going out there and just explaining to them blatantly. You know, it's all storytelling. It's theater, man. Yeah. You know, tell them a story without telling them a story.
And with the tag team aspect side of it, do y'all switch? Say like y'all have you're a smaller dude, and your tag team partner, is he a bigger fella?
Yes.
Would y'all tag in, like, say they tag in the big guy, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna tag in my big guy now, or something like that?
The deal is this. Usually the way we like to work it, and we found that this works. I mean, we'll be, matter of fact, this month will be a year we've been CCW Tag Team Champions.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, thank you. But when it comes down to working our opponents, usually I start the match because I'm going to do what I've got to do to work down the opponent, whether it be tire them out, because I'm going to be all over the place. I'm fast. I'm going to be all over the place. You got to catch me to get me. You know, I'm going to kick you. I'm going to dodge you. I'm going to roll out of the way. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to either A, work you down to size, or B, tire you out. So by the time I tag him in, he comes in, does all the heavy lifting, all the big slams, all that good stuff. You know, and because he's such a big guy, he's like 6'2", 6'3", something like that. And he's probably 240, 250. Way bigger than me. And size-wise. And it just plays perfect because you've got my speed, my agility versus his size and his strength. So, I mean, it kind of is the perfect yin and yang, you know, to work pretty much any kind of opponent.
Do y'all have, like a finisher y'all do together?
Yes, we do. It's called the final act. And as playing into the whole carnival theater thing, it's the final act. My finishing move solo is called the big top. Because my little quote or thing I used at the end is, beyond the big top, the carnival awaits. So I kick them in the stomach, they bend over, I run, I grab them under the neck, I do a front flip, and they spin over to their back. It's like a twisted neck breaker, basically. That's the big top. I can do it on any size opponent, no matter how big, tall, small, whatever you are. It just fits. It's a heavy hitting move, and I can do it on anybody. But when we became a tag team, I wanted to incorporate that move along with his size. So he picks them up on his shoulders, and I climb up on the second or third rope, and I do that same move. I flip off the rope and do the same move, but he drops them backwards into like a Samoa drop off his shoulders. So it's just my move, but on a bigger scale.
I bet you that don't feel good to be on the receiving side of that.
No, I mean, I wouldn't imagine, but I've took some slams kind of similar, not so much that one in particular, but and they definitely do not feel good coming from that high. That ring is not a trampoline. Anybody? It's not. It's 2x12s with a little, maybe a thin little gym mat, and then wrapped really, really tight with a canvas, so it's pretty much like concrete. So.
I kind of thought your finishing move was the standing, what's that, star press, I think it's called?
Oh, no, dude, you talking about the moonsault?
Yeah, where you, you jump backwards and land on them?
Yeah,
from a standing position? That's crazy. That's athletic. Did you,
I've been doing that since I was 10. And I mean, I just never quit doing it. So being 35 years old and still being able to stand up and do a standing moonsault.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I was on a trampoline as a kid, like most of us were, at one time or another. And growing up, learning how to do flips and all this kind of stuff. And I was 17 years old, and just as I was kind of dying off getting on the trampoline and all of that kind of stuff and stopped playing and start normal life, I had a kid. So just as I was getting off the trampoline, he was getting back on it. So I started wrestling with him on the trampoline again and really just haven't got off of it. So by the time I started the in-ring wrestling stuff, I just never quit doing flips.
So when you were in the academy in Ellick learning about how to do wrestling and stuff, first off, I didn't know there was a school in Alexandria specifically for wrestling.
Yeah.
And then, like, how did, because I see that you like to jump off the top ropes. You're very, you're the very real active wrestler.
Yeah.
How did you, like, was that scary the first couple of times because, in my eyes and probably the listeners, you watch wrestling and you see someone climb up on the third turnbuckle. You're like, man, I can do that until you get next to a real size ring and you look at the height. Has that ever been a factor for you in wrestling?
It has, because doing it, which anybody that's ever done the trampoline thing knows, doing it off of something that high onto a trampoline, you're kind of taking, your safeguard is there, because it's a trampoline. But when you do it onto something that if you don't land on these people and then halfway break your fall a little bit, you're going to land flat stomach on 2x12s and hope not break something. So it was definitely a learning curve, I'm going to say, just getting past that mental state. But that's anything in wrestling, just taking the bumps in general, just learning how to fall backwards and land flat at your back. It's not natural to fall backwards and not try to catch yourself. Like, not try to stick your arms behind you and brace yourself somehow. But in wrestling, you've got to learn how to do that, because if you try to stop yourself, you're going to break an arm. Every time you go to get clotheslined or slammed or whatever, you try to stop yourself with your hand or your arm, you're going to end up breaking it. Or landing on it wrong, or something's going to happen. It's going to be bad. But as far as the wrestling school in Ellick, they actually started in 2020, I believe, during COVID. And me and 4 other guys who are halfway local around here all were the first class to go through there in 2021. It was me, Punk Sinister, Logan Wade, Jake Fury, and Millennial Mike. And we were all the first class to go through there. And Danny Davis, the coach, he's actually a legend in the wrestling world. He's traveled all over the world. He was trained by Ivan Putski. Anybody that knows wrestling knows Ivan Putski is very old school, very acclaimed wrestler. And he was trained by him. But for years, after, I say, the early 2000s, when Danny kind of stopped doing the wrestling thing, he opened a motorcycle shop in Alexandria called Danny Davis's Bike Shop. And when COVID happened and all that kind of stuff, sales started kind of dwindling down and stuff like that for motorcycles. So he was like, I'm going to go back to what I know. So he opened up the wrestling school. And matter of fact, me and my wife was in Cancun, Mexico on our honeymoon. And we were sitting on the balcony. We were feeding the birds, having a whole, little romantic morning, whatever. And I look over at her and I'm like, what do you think? I see Dusty Rhodes Wrestling Academy, Gold Dust for all those Dustin Rhodes. He had just opened Rhodes Wrestling Academy in Houston. And I asked her, I was like, what do you think about moving to Houston? And me, I was 30 years old at the time, really taking a shot. Because I'm going to beat myself up for the rest of my life if I don't at least give it a shot. I'd rather try and fail than to have never tried at all. And she was like, well, I don't know about Houston, da-da-da-da. And about 20 minutes later, I had 2 of my buddies call me, and they're like, a wrestling school just opened up, like 45 minutes down the road. I'm like, I'm one of the biggest wrestling fans around my area, and if there's a wrestling school opened up, I'd be the first one to know about it. And sure enough, it was. Made the call from Cancun, Mexico, when we flew back into the States, like the next day or two. After I got settled back in, I went and met up with the coach and all of that, and the rest is history.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Cancun, Mexico.
Yeah, that's where we went on our honeymoon.
Nice. Y'all took a cruise, or y'all flew out there?
We flew out there. We were at the Sun and Moon Resort. Yeah, the Sun and Moon Resort in Cancun, Mexico.
And came back from Cancun with the idea, and look where you are now.
It's always been the idea. Like, I wanted to be a wrestler since I was 8 years old. like that. It just never changed, even all the way through high school, grade school, all that stuff. When kids were growing up and they were getting more into other things, chasing girls and this, that, and the other, whatever, normal guy stuff. As they were growing up and progressing into, I would call maturity, I was still wrestling. Like, that was my thing. And I got made fun of for it. I got told it was stupid. I got told grow up. I got told all that. But now I can honestly say that I am one of the only guys out of my area that is doing what they wanted to do when they were that young, because I didn't let the world change me from who I am. And that's just how it is. Now these same people are coming up to me and buying my t-shirts and telling me how proud they are of me and getting their kids to get my autograph and all that kind of stuff. And it's very humbling. And as easy as it would be to be like, I told you, I'm not that guy.
Sometimes it's best left unsaid then, because
actions speak louder than words.
Yes,
man.
Yes, sir, they do. Well, let's take an intermission right quick and let you get out that mask. I see some sweat going down this side. We'll be right back with the rest of this episode, listeners, and make sure to check out Third Coast Podcast on 5000ws.thirdcoastpodcast.com on all major streaming platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Big shout out. We have hit 515 subscribers, and we appreciate everybody, and we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Thank y'all for listening to episode 257. We got a little bit longer to go. I got a few more questions. So, who is your biggest inspiration in wrestling? Like, if you could look at one wrestler or maybe even a promoter in wrestling, who would that be?
I've always looked up to the more technical style wrestlers, but I would say all around it's got to be Eddie Guerrero. It's got to be Eddie Guerrero, and rest in peace to him. You know, he passed away a while back, but in my opinion, there's levels to wrestling as far as technical ability, athletic ability, you know, strengths and all that kind of stuff. And as far as a well-rounded wrestler, like he could take on any size opponent and make them shine like a diamond, it was Eddie. And taking a little bit of what he's done in the past and incorporating it in my own stuff, I love the fact that if it was ground game, he could do the technical stuff. He could do the rolls and the locks and the holds and very old school style wrestling. But if it needed to be athleticism, he could get on the ropes. He could do the fly, jump, and the flips and all that kind of stuff. You know, that wasn't a thing. I mean, that's lucha wrestling and as a whole. As far as him coming from Mexico and stuff like that, they do a lot of the head scissors and the takedowns and all that kind of stuff. But my biggest inspiration, if I had to put it on one guy, it would definitely be Eddie Guerrero.
That's a good pick, too. I met his dad when I was in El Paso, of all people.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is great.
The senior. I think he went by senior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's been years ago. So, we got your biggest inspiration. We've learned about the school and all the different elements from your point of view. So, even though you have titles, you've been in 9 different states, you're wrestling all over the place, been all over the world on different podcasts. What's the ultimate goal? Is it the top, or is it just you're going to keep grinding? And do you want to eventually hit that top tier?
My ultimate goal, man, and I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll hold true to this, because wrestling is one thing and one thing only, and that is a business of paying it forward. You know, a lot of people don't think this way, which is fine. You know, do you? But most wrestlers on my level right now are going, I'm trying to make it to AEW. I'm trying to make it to WWE. I'm trying to make it, you know, on a bigger scale, TV and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, that's not my goal. My goal is to learn as much as I can in the time I have before my end of days to be able to one day open my own wrestling school so that I can pay it forward to the next batch of guys with a dream like I've got to come in and be able to open that door like Danny Davis did for me. You know, in wrestling, you're only as good as your opponent. Everybody talks about winning championships and doing all that kind of stuff, but in all reality, the only reason you're out there grinding, putting your body through what it's being put through and winning all these belts and all of that and building yourself up as this top tier talent is so that when it finally comes time for the next guy to beat you, it means something. You know, you build yourself up on a platform that is now a goal for the next guy to come up. I've got to beat him because he's the champion. He's the one that's already set himself up. He's top talent. Da, da, da. If I beat him, it automatically puts me over. It automatically escalates me. And that is what any wrestler should keep in mind, is the fact that you're doing what you're doing now to pay it forward eventually, to put that next new generation of guy over, pass the torch per se. You know, and if I could do that by bestowing the knowledge that I've gained through all the different companies I've worked and the people I've talked to and the locker rooms I've shared with all these different legends that have so much more years of experience under their belt and know the ins and outs of the business, you know, you're constantly learning. I don't think you're ever truly going to learn it all, and if you do, you probably should just get out. But you're a student of the game always. So by the time when I finally hang it up and I'm done doing what I'm doing, I want to be able to pass that knowledge on to the next person and have the next group of guys come in with the knowledge I have and open that door for them to go off and travel and do what they're doing.
That's amazing that your ultimate goal is to pay it forward, just like how you went to school and you want to open your own wrestling school. And what you had told me earlier about how you're like one of the head teachers right now in the Alexandria school. And that right there just shows a lot of like dedication, just because you want, it's for everybody, not just for yourself. And that's really inspiring.
Well, I mean, you got people, I know growing up how much of a dream it was for me to go out and do to do what I'm doing now. It was so far-fetched. You know, in my mind, it was right at my fingertips, but in all reality, there was no wrestling around here. You had to go off to like a big city or something like that to chase that kind of dream, move off. And as life happened, as it does to everybody, it just kind of got put on the back burner. But when everything fell into place like it did, and Danny Davis opened that door of the school and allowed me to come through there and taught me what he taught me and all of that kind of stuff, and allowed me to finally be true to myself and get back on that horse, you know, and live my dream that I dreamed about as a kid. I'm a firm believer, and I can't live for you. You can't live for me. What makes me happy may not make you happy, and what makes you happy may not make me happy. It doesn't make either of us wrong. It just, you know, makes us individuals, and that's what makes the whole world beautiful, is the fact that everybody's into something different. But if I can take somebody who was like me growing up thinking it was the most unattainable thing in the world and show them that with passion and persistence and a little bit of drive and heart, you can do whatever you want to. You know, join the school, get trained, learn how to work in and out of the ring, and the rest of it is completely obtainable and up to you. But if I can do that to one person, give them their foot in the door, and then let them chase their dreams, then I'm set.
You truly are an inspiration. You know that it ain't many people out there in the world that think like that, and you should hold that to high esteem, because that's something special inside of you.
Yeah.
You had brought up earlier too, making the other guy look good. So, yes. Could you elaborate on that? I'm kind of interested in that. Is that like when they're doing their moves, or y'all in the ring doing, you know, doing the thing.
Yeah.
Is that like, understanding and respecting him too? Like, he might have a certain move that you know about, and like a choke, like, say, like a basic choke slam, right? And you know, like, okay, he's going for the choke slam, so let me help, set it up and maybe give a little lift. Is that like a thing? Like, you gotta give the...
It is to an extent, but if anybody that knows the inside of wrestling a little bit, you only look as good as you make your opponent look. So when it comes down to taking a move or giving a move, if you don't properly help that smoothness of it, then it makes him look like garbage. I'm gonna use this as an example, and I hate that it's probably gonna upset some people, but like, say somebody goes to give somebody a punch, just a regular punch. They go to give him a punch, but they don't fully touch him. You know what I mean? Like, they leave that gap, but the guy still sells it like he just was not.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that right there not only just discredited you, but it discredited him. And it, you know what I'm saying? And if you don't play into that and help them look good just as much as you're trying to look good by selling the move or taking the move, then the match could be garbage before it ever got a chance to even build into a story or anything like that.
So, have you ever took an opponent, right, and you've seen some of his, like, wrestling moves and stuff. Have you ever had one where it's like, man, I gotta take this guy, but he likes to do, like, the chops in the chest, and you're like, oh, man, I can't believe I gotta take chops tonight in the chest.
Look. Anybody that has ever seen me work, I wrestle without a shirt on. My chest is pretty concave. Like, you could eat cereal out of my chest. It's one of those. And taking chops, you might as well be slapping that wall over there. Because it's just hand on bone. But when it comes to taking chops, my personal go-to is you get two. You get two. I'll give you two. And then I'm not letting you get no more. I'm not a fan. Now, have I been chopped multiple? Yes. Like, matter of fact, you could have read the palms of some of the guys who chopped me on my chest. Just from them leaving different handprints on my chest from chopping me so hard. But it's also a respect deal. You got to take care of your opponent. Okay? You don't want somebody to get gas, get winded, get, hurt any kind of way. That's wrestling. And even if you look like you hate the guy, wrestling is, I want both of us to come back to the locker room and be just as good as we went out there. I don't want you hurt, and I don't want me hurt. Because now that social media is a thing, unlike back in the day, word travels fast. I'm not going to drop any names, and I'm not going to drop any companies, but I was working a show a while back, and this guy that I was going against said that he had been wrestling 10 years. Now, he told me that, and I didn't question anything else. I'm like, 10 years, dude, okay, you know what you're doing. If you've been wrestling this long, I should have no problem with you. But this dude, that was the guy who was about 6'4", 6'5", about 380. And when he gave me clotheslines, he gave them across my mouth. It wasn't across my chest. Right across, like, the only time I've ever had blood in my mask. Because it busted all my lips open. He gave them to me 2 or 3 different times. And the only match that I've ever been concussed in. And then after the match, we get to the locker room, and I'm asking him, like, dude, what the heck, man? What's going on? And he's like, well, also, because I went to jump off the top rope at one point, and he was supposed to catch me and give me a slam. But when he caught me, he stumbled back and fell sideways and landed all 380 pounds on me, just all dead weight. And I was like,
that didn't feel good.
I'm like, what happened? You're that big. You should be able to just toss me around like nothing. And he's like, well, from an injury I had such and such years ago, my legs sometimes give out. And I'm like, well, that's something you tell your opponent before the match when you're talking about things. You tell them, you're like, hey, you probably shouldn't do this or that because if my legs happen to give out, I don't want to hurt you. But there are people in the wrestling business that all they're worried about is getting themselves the shine. They may never work you again. They may never even see you again. You know, they work this one match because you don't know, most of the time, you don't know your opponent prior to getting to the venue. You get there and the promoter goes, okay, you're facing Joe Blow over there in the corner. You've never met that guy. You don't know him.
Yeah.
You just got to take him on his word. Even wrestling 10 years, cool deal. You know, and it's dangerous in that aspect, but when it comes down to it, you just got to kind of roll with the punches, and sometimes you end up a little beat up. And now, note to self, most people have matches on YouTube and things like that they've wrestled prior. So if you find out and you've got an hour before the show and you find out that you're wrestling somebody, go Google their name. Look them up on YouTube. Look how they work. Watch one of their matches. Scroll through. Hit the highlights. Just so you know what you're getting into prior to going in there and just hoping he knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. That was a hard lesson learned.
Man, this is so. I feel like we could talk forever.
Oh, dude,
yeah, we've been rolling strong even into the second segment. I had something on my mind. Now it went away as usual. This has been a fun outing. Thank Joe. Hold up.
Hey, man.
It's to collect the thought button.
I got you.
So there's actually here's the question. So there's wrestling like you do, and then there's the harder stuff where there's like with the barbed wire and going through tables
Deathmatch
and
wrestling.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that something you try not to do, or have you experienced with any type of the hardcore wrestling side before?
Before I was doing what I'm doing now and learned the respect for the business I've got now, as a lot of people coming up, I done the backyard stuff. I done the what I call deathmatch wrestling, the flaming tables, the barbed wire, the light tubes, all that kind of stuff. I was doing that up into my 20s, scratching an itch because I wasn't going out and performing at shows like I'm doing now, but I still wanted to wrestle. So I was getting booked in other towns, what they call little backyard garbage shows, which what I know now is garbage, but it was the only wrestling that I could do at the time. You know, I was scratching an itch. That's all it was to it. I was scratching an itch. And into my 20s, we had a match, and it was 59-foot fluorescent light tubes. And that was the only other time I've been to the ER due to wrestling. And I got 27 stitches because the light tube stabbed through there and come out right there. It went boop and then come out this side. And I didn't know it had happened. I locked up with the guy, and I seen a dude coming from, because it was 4 or 5 people in the match. And I locked up with a guy, and I seen a guy coming from behind me with a light tube. And when he went to swing it, I threw my arms back to block it, and it jabbed me through my forearm. And it was such a quick, precise cut that I didn't even know it happened until I locked back up with the dude, and I see blood just gushing. And from the tip of my fingers all the way to my shoulder, it had that numb, tingly feeling like your arms asleep.
Yeah.
It had that, and I look down and blood's gushing. I tell the guy that I'm wrestling, I'm like, hey dude, you gotta pin me out. So he picks me up, does his finisher, 1, 2, 3. I roll out. I get rushed to the ER, and I've got, like, he's uncut veins and tendons and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I ended up with 27 stitches. Yeah. But that was the last. That's
gory.
Yeah, that was the last of that.
Don't blame you on that boat there. That don't sound like too much fun. So that's probably the worst injuries. So
Yes.
You've been through a flaming table then?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
Been hit with the chairs?
Well, the last tag match we done at CCW, which, as far as weapons and stuff, regular tables, ladder matches, chairs, things like that, I don't consider that hardcore because that's just normal wrestling stuff. But the fire, the barbed wire, the light tubes and all that other crazy. It takes no skill to hit somebody with something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As a professional, knowing what I know now, paying the money and putting myself to an actual academy and learning what I've learned about professional wrestling, it really showed me how their style of wrestling, the weapons and all of that bloodiness and gore, it takes no skills to do that.
Yeah.
Storytelling and working locks and holds and things like that. Yeah, they may go in there and they may have an actual ring and stuff, but anybody can swing a light tube at somebody and break it over their face.
Yeah.
Anybody can light somebody on fire or anything like that. That's not a hard thing to do, but the technical, there's no story there. And what I'm doing as a professional and as somebody who has went through an academy is my job is to give you a story. So by the time I come next time, you already know what I'm about. You know the story that I'm bringing. You know what I've given you one chapter. Now I'm here to tell you the next chapter. And so on and so forth. Because if I give you everything at one time, and that's what deathmatch is. They give you everything at one time. They give you all the blood, all the gore, all the glass and the fire, and all, they give it everything at once. To where, what are they going to do next time? They've given you everything already.
Yeah.
You know, what else can they do? Other than just flat out kill somebody. I mean, but that's what separates a professional from a deathmatch wrestler. And not knocking anybody who likes that style of wrestling, by all means do you, but I know that it takes years off your career each time you have one of those style of matches. It takes years off of your career. You're already getting beat up, let alone now you're beat up, bloody, gory, stitches and staples and all that kind of junk. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, you could have really fucked your arm up too.
Oh yeah, dude.
You could have lost like use of your fingers and shit.
Yep.
Just one wrong tendon got cut
and
or one nerve.
And at that time, I just got a job on the towboat. So I'm thinking, I'm working this awesome job, making good money and all this kind of stuff, and I'm still going home on my days off and doing this dumb shit, and it's not worth it. You know, even though I thought it was what I wanted because it was all that was around here, and I was, like I said, scratching an itch that I've had since I was a kid that, in my mind at the time, thought that was as close as I would ever get to actually being at a show, performing in front of an actual crowd, which wasn't but like 15 people. But now that I'm doing what I'm doing and have wrestled in front of thousands of people and performed in places that I never thought I would, like I told you earlier, you know, I wrestled for JCW for ICP in 2022 at the Gathering of the Juggalos in front of 17,000 people. I'm from right here in central Louisiana in a no-name, nothing town. And
so that was at the festival?
Yes. That was in Ohio.
You went,
at the Gathering of the Juggalos.
See, I thought it was like an hosted event. I didn't think it was the Gathering.
Yes,
It's called the Gathering,
The Gathering of the Juggalos,
yeah.
Yep. I went up there.
That's so fucking cool.
I went up there. I done they have the Madman Pondo tryouts, where all kinds of wrestlers from all over the country come up, and they put everybody through like a day or two tryout, and then they pick 30. And they have a gigantic battle royal. And yeah, I made the cut.
So was it like they just send people in one by one?
No,
or is it like y'all all 30 in there at one time?
Yep.
They hit you with the what's that soda they drink? The Fago?
Oh, dude, they were hitting us with everything, man. It was raining.
Is there a video for that?
Yes.
On YouTube?
It's on my YouTube.
Oh man, I'm gonna watch that. I did.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
You have so much content and so much information about yourself out there. It's just like I feel like I just grasped the cusp of watching and reading through the articles and listening to the podcast and watching your art form. It's just like
like I said,
you're
man,
everywhere.
That's
crazy.
I'm invested. This is all I've ever wanted to do, and now that I can do it, and it actually, because I was doing this kind of stuff not on this level, but years before the wrestling, and now that I'm doing it for people who actually enjoy it, and it means something. It's not just for me. You know, I don't play video games. I rarely watch movies, and if I do, it's because me and my wife want to lay up and watch a movie. But if I'm not working my normal job, I'm working on promos. I'm working on logos. I'm working on video editing. I'm working on my gear. I'm working on, I wrestle at the school, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, training new students. I go home Thursday and Friday. I'm usually on a podcast. Saturday, I wrestle. I get home Sunday. I relax for the day and then back to my normal job Monday. So 110% wrestling is my life. And you can tell through, like you said, my work and all my stuff I put out, it's an obsession. And I use that word in the broadest sense. It's an obsession. And to be honest, you gotta be. You gotta be kind of obsessed with your passion or it just becomes a hobby. It's not something you love, it's something you do. But if it's something you love, then it's never work. And I know we've all heard that. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I'm beyond in love with what I do.
That's wonderful.
But
I had to get that quick pause in because just let that settle with the listeners. You've said like 5 or 6 words of wisdom things before we even got there.
I mean, this is me every day, man. This is, I try to, my alternate TikTok, my normal TikTok, is called Exist to Inspire. That is Exist to Inspire official. And I'm always dropping little daily words of wisdom and things like that. And it's not just for me. It helps me, but you never know who may need to hear it. You never know. Even if it's something that may not resonate with you today, it may be something you need to hear tomorrow. You know, everybody has bad days. Everybody has things that they go through, this, that, and the other. But if you love what you do, if you invest in yourself, if you have passion in what you do, if you live every day to push as much positivity to everybody else that's around you, building your circle of positivity, push all the negative ones out. I've got family I don't speak to because they're negative people. I live my life in the most positive sense ever. I'm in love with what I do wrestling wise. I've got an amazing son, an amazing wife, a home. If you build your circle of positivity, then you leave no room for any kind of dark vibes to get in. It's hard to do that, and I know it's easier said than done, because it's not I'm going to do it tomorrow and then wait a week and I'm going to do it again. It's an everyday struggle. Now, we all have bad days, but every time you have a bad day, think about a day that you had that was worse than that. And then it doesn't seem as bad. You know? That's bottom line.
Beautiful, beautiful words of wisdom. So, could you leave the listeners with all your handles where they can find you at and some of your upcoming wrestling dates, if you don't mind?
Yes. Let's see. My wrestling handles, I've got Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Pro Wrestling Tees. I've got OnlyWrestlers.com, Oakland fans, and it's all Rika Wildlee, RIKAWILDLEE official. Matter of fact, do yourself a favor. Just Google the name Rika Wildlee. I'm literally the only one out there. I'm the first thing that pops up on Google. So if you Google the name Rika Wildlee, then you literally can find everything and anything about that. So, the upcoming dates that I've got in Silsbee, Texas, on the 19th, I will be wrestling with the family affiliated against the Sport family. This has been a 8 months build, and we're finally going to have a 4-on-4 match. Rika Wildlee, Ethan Sorrow, Gluttony the Big Top Butcher, and Raina Rose versus Tyson Sport, Damian Sport, The Ghoul, and Vivian Sport. It's a 4-on-4 match, freak show rules, which it's going to get wild. But that's on the 19th in Silsbee, Texas, at the Warehouse Sports Complex. I would love for you guys to come out. If you need any information on that, please hit me up. I'd love for y'all to make the show. Then, as I believe August 2nd is in Groesbeck, Texas. and it's for East Texas Wrestling Alliance. It's going to be a big, huge event at the convention center there in Groesbeck, Texas. Then the 16th is one I was telling you about earlier, the Wounded Warrior Project, UWE, United Wrestling Entertainment at the Alexandria Convention Center on MacArthur Drive is putting together a Wrestling for Warriors event for the Wounded Warriors Project to benefit all the veterans from around this area and all of that to give back to them. So that's going to be an amazing event, August 16th. But other than that, I've got all kinds of other stuff coming up. I'd love for you guys to get a hold of me. I'm one message away on any platform, and I can give you all other upcoming dates that I may be around your area, so you can come out and watch me do my thing.
All right. So we were at the last cuffs, the end of the podcast. Would you like to do the ending, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I can definitely do that.
Do your send-off.
Okay. I'm going to end it like this, like I always do, and always remember to push for positivity and make the most of each and every day. If you get a chance to make change, make that change, because there's so many people out there that will never get the chance to make the changes you get to make today. If you see somebody going through some bullshit, be that shoulder to lean on, be that ear to listen. You don't have to fix their problems. Just let them know that they're there, that you're there if they need you. And one day, when you're going through your own bullshit, somebody will be there to push that same good common courtesy and positive vibe onto you. And you really never know how much just that little small gesture that cost you nothing could change somebody's life from, whatever they're going through. So be there for somebody today, so when you need it most, as we all do from time to time, somebody will be there for you.
Dope. And thank you for listening to episode 257. I'm Joe. What it do, Gators? And we out.